Good morning. So this is the new project. Skip's on the board. Big skip. Just been speaking to Denise, our client, and she's over the moon that we're starting. So here we are, this patio's got to come up. The table and chairs already in place, and there's the sample of the slabs that I brought up originally, and this is the garden. Well, we're in the garden. We've been speaking to our customer Denise now, and that's the existing patio, but you can see what we've done this morning. We've got the table and chairs. We've actually put the table and chairs out and seen the space that we need for the patio. So we started marking this curvaceous shape. If you come down here, you can have a look. And we haven't just sprayed it on. We've been using pins and we've been using radiuses. So we've got the shape from there off the house for that radius, one off here, and it's going to join this. We're going to have it. It's going to be a wood effect plank, and so we're going to put these probably at a diagonal. That's going to be here. The main patio is going to be in this, probably at a diagonal. Italian porcelain, beautiful product, and yeah, and that's the thing. When you're thinking about buying porcelain, you need to find out if your supplier, who's supplying the porcelain, or if you've got it yourself, you need to ensure that you check the ethnicity of the porcelain and make sure not just where it comes from, how it's processed, and guarantees. You want to make sure that you got guarantees with your porcelain. You need to ask a few questions of the porosity value, whether it will stain, and what you can do about the stainings. You need to find out. Product knowledge is key, it's so important, so just check that out. If you've got any questions, you just need to drop me an email or give me a ring. But look, anyway, then the rest of it is going to be grass over here, and then over on this side we're going to have a meandering border that's going to reflect the shape of the patio, so it's got some unity between the patio and the border and the lawn. So can't wait to get started with this. But it's the same thing again, we've come back, new development, and you can see the ground's all up and down, and underneath here there is a lot of stone, so they haven't put a lot of soil in, hence that's why you've got a lot of discoloration with the grass in places, and that's just a result of poor aeration, poor porosity value. The water's sort of sitting and it's killing the root systems of the grass. That's not what we want for our customer here. Well, earlier on I was explaining about why the grass is paling in yellow, and the reason for that is because it's being held in water, and because of that you don't have any good aeration, and the ground's absolutely saturated. If we look at this now, if you look at that, you can see how wet and sticky that is in that full depth. So that's what we're digging off at the moment. We're digging off that full depth for the patio, of course, but the reason that it's wet is because the water isn't getting away. So when we get down to this, what we call the substrate, we dig, you look at that now, look at that, it's just all stone, all absolutely stone, and absolutely solid. So the water's not getting away, it's holding there, and then eventually the water is being saturated through that horizon all the way through. There's not good aeration, so basically the grass is drowning, I suppose that's the way to describe it. It's just holding in water, and not good at all. So we've got to put a new lawn here. So what I'm going to do is if we look at it as a soil, I would say that it's not bad, it needs conditioning, it's dark, it's organic, it is breaking up, but there's very little grit in it, so there's no porosity value in there, no drainage ability through that, so the porosity is going to be quite poor. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to strip all this off, get it to one side, knock it around. Now the weather's breaking, it'll start drying up. We can get all the grass and the weeds out as it starts breaking, okay? Pull it all up, get to this dig here, and then what we're going to do is we're going to loosen all that up at a greater depth. If we loosen that up, then start introducing this soil and taking the grass out as we go, because it's so important you take the grass out. It can actually be good in some cases because it helps to aerate the ground when it starts rotting down, but we haven't got the time for that, so we'll probably sort of break it up. Hopefully the weather will start drying up long as it does. So we'll pull all this off, get it into one pile, start breaking up as it dries, loosen this ground up, and then start to reintroduce what we've got here back in the ground, and probably adding some gritty composite into there. Good sharp sand is actually good, but you can't seem to get the sharp sand no more like you used to. It's more like a byproduct from the brick industry, or where they break a lot of the limestone down. So it's sharp sand years ago had lots of shell and in it, and it was good for drainage, but you know, we need some gritty composite in this ground so the water can permeate back through the ground. But at the moment it's just holding on this, so we're gonna have to break all this up, strip it off, rip it up, start introducing it, and then we know that we're going to have a decent piece of ground to lay on, and we're going to have to make the levels up a little bit more as well. So what we're telling our viewers what we're doing.
Yeah,
we're going to get the digger round the back, because what's the ground like?
rock.
Not good. It's absolutely solid. Like I said, it's just soaking up all water. So we're gonna have to rip that all up, pull it all to one side, and a bit of a major dig really. So, but we've got to get the digger now. The neighbours next door have been so good to allow us to gain access because it's a shared fence. So we're gonna gain access through there now and hopefully get on with it now. Well, let's have a look at the ground that we're digging up. Here we are, this is it. This is what they bring in to make up the ground level, and then they compact it. That's the thing, that's the biggest problem, is compaction. And then the water can't permeate through it, it has no porosity value. So what we're going to do, we're going to rip this up. We can't take it all away, but what we're going to do, because the ground's so low, we've got to make the ground up about 8-9 inches. So we're going to mix all that stone in, filter it through, break it down, and some of this grass can be at a lower point. It'll break up, we'll break it up nice and fine, and then it'll have some organic matter at a lower point, and that will create good aeration and hopefully some worm activity, because there's none in there at the moment. Granted that this is the lower part of the garden, but do you want to know how we got rid of that water?
Oh, tell us, John.
That was it. Well, look, we've turned all the ground over, we've mixed all the stone up. I want to get back in with the machine today. I want to loosen all that, leave the air get to it, then the sunshine then will start breaking down the soil. But as you can see, the reason that's not getting away is through consolidation of the substrate that the contractors left in place.
See?
There you are. So we were talking about MOT Type 1. MOT Type 1 is the Ministry of Transport Type 1 stone, okay, what's used basically in road building. So it's more than capable of doing the job. But what I wanted to talk about was that over the years, I used to recycle a lot of the slabs and the paving, the hardcore, and that was in the garden. And it was frowned upon. I don't know what you actually think about that, whether it is the right thing to do or whether it isn't the right thing to do. But now you'll see like that little tiger bite, the little red rhino now in the back gardens, and they're recycling all the slabs in instead of taking it away. And for some reason, that's accepted now. That's okay. Not sure whether I was breaking it down small enough or not, or whether there was not enough fines in between the bigger lumps to bring it together. But these machines do grade to a certain size. So my question is to you, is it worth doing? My biggest concern is how noisy it can be in a garden, and dusty. Go when you're ready.
Yeah. Go on.
Right. So Nick's done most of the work. I've got these muck boots on and wear them like this. So what we've got here, this is MOT Type 1 going in, and it's so important when you're putting your sub base in that you make it as flat as possible. I don't mean flat as in level, I mean flat. The surface has got to be flat. You can put a fall in your sub base because each level, your dig, your substrate, your MOT, okay, should always reflect the finished level of your wearing course. Your wearing course in this case is going to be porcelain. So fall from the house in the porcelain, you should have a fall, exactly the same fall with your MOT Type 1. Your dig should have a fall on it as well. And the idea of this in civil engineering terms, that any moisture coming down will always go to a low point, like what we see over there, Nick. That low point, that's where we're collecting water. In the rest of the garden, okay, everything's fallen away. We've had to address the project over here because we've actually increased the depth of the soil. We've introduced some stone into that, creating good aeration, allowing the ecosystem, the worms and all those invertebrates that's down in the ground is going to pull all the matter in and just create some good aeration, allowing the water to permeate through. The other thing, of course, is that when you're putting in a sub base, you've got to make sure, okay, you've got to make sure that you compact at levels. And I would say, in this case, you'd be compacting at about every 3 inches compact, then your next 3 inches compact again. What you don't want to be doing is trying to compact the full depth, like where we're putting in here. If we look at this now, this stone here was what the 2x2 flagstones were laid on. They were laid on this stone dust. So are we using that? Is it okay to use it? Of course it is. It's fine to use it. So we're just blending it in with the other stuff. We've got a circular paved area going over there, so we've got most of the stone dust over there, but I wanted some good MOT Type 1 on this part here. Now people are going to say, why aren't you using the Lemix? You used it before. I did. I don't have to use it all the time though, do I? You got it. Tell you what, the tips.
Yeah.
I said tips.
I know. Top tips.
Yeah, top tips. So if you are a consumer, you think about having a patio done, make sure that in the quote, in the specifications, in the written quote that you're going to get, because you are going to get that, aren't you?
Yes.
Are you?
Should do.
Yeah. You are going to get it. You can get a written quote. It's going to be itemised. It's going to specify depth and method, etc., etc. You want a quote that is not like the Bible, but you want some detail in your quote to know what you're actually having. And if you are a consumer, make sure they put the right depth of sub base in on your project. wanted to make at this point is that you can never ever compact enough. If you're renting one of these compactor plates, use it as much as you can. You want your compactor plate literally to be bouncing on that sub base. It wants to be rock hard.
There you are, this is that's the water coming out the sand, so always got to make sure that you understand the moisture content of your sand that you're using.
Show you what we've been up to. I've used the spacers on it, but I haven't used the self-leveling system because I'm not really feel I don't need it, but I think I did need it on this bit because I'm about 2 mil low here, unless that's where I washed out and it went down. I don't know, but I'm gonna have to lift this one back up. Well, this is the mix that I'm using, and it works perfectly for me. If you have a look at here, this is a semi-dry. If you look here now on the edge of this, that's just gone for solid. I mean, absolutely solid. But what I'm doing is I'm reducing the water content, because water is detrimental for many reasons. Too much water, that is. Here you are, this is my paddle mixer this morning. I'll get it out. I'm just keen to get on, but yeah, it's nearly done. I'm using a screed mix this morning. There's enough moisture in the sand because the sharp sand is on a board out there, and the board is holding the water. So there's plenty of moisture in there. Don't need to put it into the mixer. It's quite easy to actually mix it up with a shovel for the consistency that I'm looking for on this project. I don't necessarily think that you always have to use a mixer. The trouble is with a mixer is that to get what I believe is the correct mix, okay, for laying or paving, you need to use a screed mix. You don't want too much water in it because water is detrimental for anything. There's an exact equation for water to sand and gravel and cement ratio when producing concrete. Any more than that, your concrete becomes compromised in some way, in many ways in fact. And the same applies with laying mortar beds for paving. So we've got to make sure we reduce the water content. And I've done this time and time again. I've spoke about it so many times. And the thing is, to get the right mix in a mixer when you're doing the screed mix, is that you're going to get segregation, and that's when the cement paste separates from the sand and your grit. Okay, it just separates. You get segregation, you get bauble in, and you don't get the correct mix. At least I know with this that when I look at it and when I squeeze it, I know that I'm going to get compressive strength. There's a continuity in colour. Okay, there's going to be good strength in there. When the moisture evaporates, we know what's actually left is a solid bed. Back on with it. that's in place. You can see that I'm using this semi-dry screed mix, which is so important because it has compressive strength. With the wet mix, water is just not compressive. That's why they use liquids in hydraulic. It is not compressive. You can compress this without the water. After evaporation of any moisture, you'll be left with a solid bed. As you can see, I've laid the actual tile nice and tight initially, and the reason for that, it ensures that no cement comes up between the ground lines. Also, you can see when I was trying to pull it away, to actually create the gap, you can actually see the actual slab was free to actually pull away. But when I did manage to be able to just get it out and then cut the spaces in place, you can see it was holding it in place, and I wasn't having to push it back in place because with the wet mix you get that movement. So, and you can see I was hitting that pretty hard as well, and I don't think I'd ever had a porcelain slab actually break. It's happening today. Porcelain tile is 2cm, Italian porcelain. I put the level on it, got a force correct on that side, so we just come across this way. I have got a slab on it. Just some people are using those self-leveling systems that I did for one recent project, and still not quite sure about it. Does it help? Yes, it does. It creates a space, it's nice and level. But what you've got to remember is that porcelain, in some cases, crown of porcelain. So it's really, I don't think it's necessary to actually use your self-leveling system because it's about gauging about the lipping and what's right and what isn't right. So I'm not going to go on about that too much now. So there we are, solid there. You can see that's gone off like as I said before, the water, the sand has a less moisture there, sand on the moisture, so the water, and I can just mix it and get the right quantity of sand. If I was working in concrete now, I would use today a little bit more moisture in the sand, I would mix it too much. Hang on. And as if by magic, the British weather never fails to sort of let you down, does it? This is the thing, isn't it? You know, what contractors, we talk about this on a regular basis, like what contractors have to deal with, especially when you're working outdoors, the inclement weather conditions. It has an effect on your project. And do you need to cater that in and allow that in the quote? Well, I'd say that you do, because you just got to look at your pricing correctly. You really be thorough about it, you know, and once you've worked that formula out and you know that it's working, you know that you're in a profit, you know that you're not falling behind. And the formula as well is not just about the pricing, it's about your approach to the consumer, making them aware of these sorts of things, you know. Believe it or not, they are human, but they don't understand that it has an effect on us, this weather. Well, not all of them anyway. Hasn't ruined the bed that much. It's stopped now. I'm going to crack on with this now. I'm going to turn the camera off because I want to get on and get across this part of the garden so that it has a day or so to go off, because we can walk on it the next day a little bit, but what we don't want to be doing is we don't want to be sort of bumping wheelbarrows over it, so we need a couple of days for that to actually go off. So if you look at the bed, this is the one good thing about a screen mix, is that if it does rain, is that you're not going to have all that mush coming up between your paving, and when you lay your slab, you know that it's going to stay in place and not wobble around. And that's what we have to think of. We have to work smart when working in this British weather. it's come out eventually. I've run out of cement and I've run out of sand as well, so not bad. Gone all right. There is a slab that we have to remove because it was a sample that I've laid. Didn't realise, but I left it in it because it was raining on the day. I didn't want it splashing up. And there's a little bit of lipping over there, which I'm gonna have to get sorted out. Of course, a bright old slab, isn't it? Looking good though.